Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. It has been a hot minute since I've had a guest on here. I'm very excited. It's been a couple of months since we've been chatting to organize it, and the stars have aligned. I've got an absolute rock star, pocket rocket on the podcast today. Meg Martin, formerly known as Meg Sutherland, is on here today. Elite gymnast for 7 years, won a world championship in individual women's sports aerobics, has gone on to study a bachelor in exercise nutrition science, has also been offered to go into the physio realm, but actually decided to go out on her own, take a risk, and move into the world of PT in the fitness industry. Has been sponsored by a major company, being Gymshark. Has started her own running, core mission, and that I've been a part of in the Mega Run, which I'm sure we'll chat about. And got recently married as well at a young age, which is fantastic. And is now working on something very exciting of her own, which is early stages. I don't know if I'm going to get any glimpses into that today. Maybe, maybe not. But ladies and gentlemen, Meg Martin, or Meg Sutherland, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for that intro. That was very special. You make me blush.
This is you deserve all the praise, girl. I've had the pleasure of meeting you in person, and just something, I guess, I was the one that reached out to you to jump on here. I guess something that's very attractive to me from you is just your energy. And I'm sure you've had that compliment before, not just me, but you're it's just very attracting. It's very radiating, the energy that you have. And it's why you've probably been able to build the Mega Run to the size that it is. And it's just getting bigger and bigger from what I'm seeing on socials. So yeah, it was very attractive for me to I guess hear your story, because that's I guess I selfishly do these podcasts to connect with incredible people and hear people's stories, and I guess that's where we're going to pretty much start off. So if you could just give, for anyone that does or maybe doesn't know you as well as they could you give us, I guess I would say the trailer to the movie. What's the story of Meg Martin?
I'm still getting used to the last name change, but thank you. Where to start? I guess you said a lot of the achievements that I normally would mention, but when I was really young, from about 3, I was in gymnastics, had great family, great parents. They were very selfless in how they raised us. We've had access to everything, which is great. So I was in elite gymnastics until I was about 10, but it was pretty hardcore hours, 4 hours a day, and I was so young. So I ended up leaving gymnastics and moved schools. I think I was at Sheldon College then, and there was a sports aerobics program there, and they scouted me to sports aerobics. But when I actually started sports aerobics, I was so terrible at it. I was they had A, B, C teams, and C being the worst, and I was in the C team in the back row. That's how terrible I was. And I remember, because obviously across the 6 years that I did aerobics, I built myself up to winning worlds. So a lot of people, when you're at that high level, just assume that you were just naturally very good at aerobics. Whereas I'm like, no, you have no idea where I started. But I obviously had that foundational background from gymnastics, being strong and flexible. So that was definitely to my advantage. So I progressed pretty quickly. And then after I won Worlds, I actually went back the following year to back up my title, because I wasn't the top age, and I actually came second by 0.1.
Oh,
so
we'll chat about that. That's
yes, I would love to chat about that, because it was one of the best things that for me, a big realization in my life. And then after that, I almost went back again, because I just thought, I can't just go out on coming second place, because I am that person with the headspace that second is the first to lose. Like, I do not like coming second. But I was going to go back, and then I just thought, well, what's my intention behind it? Like, why am I going back? And it was mainly because I wanted to win, rather than the love for the sport. I think I had lost it a little bit. And also, it's all consuming. So when you're training for aerobics, that's all you do. So in grade 12, I wanted to focus a little bit more on my academics, because I wanted to do something in the science realm. I actually wanted to be a vet initially, but I didn't think that I was smart enough to be a vet, because you have to get top school results. And then I graduated school. I got an OP3, which is 2 levels. They use ATAR now, but it's 2 levels below a OP1. So I didn't get directly into vet, but I thought, okay, well, what's my second passion? because I always just grew up thinking academics is the only way, I guess. And I definitely am a big believer in getting an education. It provides you so many opportunities, and I wouldn't change what I did. But I went and I ended up studying Bachelor of Exercise and Nutrition Science because you have an option to master in a lot of other things. So physio, dietetics, exercise, physiology, just all of those sort of health realms. I thought, okay, well, this is a good pathway degree while I figure out what it is exactly that I want to do, whilst also doing social media on the side, just as a hobby, sharing my fitness journey and that sort of thing. And then I graduated that degree and I got really good scores in it. So I actually got offered a position in vet science in Gatton. And Gatton, to go and study vet, you have to go out to Gatton, which is a country town, and you have to study it for 5 years, which is a lot. And I just didn't know if I had it in me to go out there for that long, because I'm so close to my family and I really loved the lifestyle that I was living. So rather than leave straight away, I decided to go and work in a vet for a year in reception and just see what the reality of the job was. And that was the best thing I ever did, because it allowed me to sort of, I guess you would say, scratch the itch that I had to be a vet. And I decided not to go down that line, not because I didn't like the field, but it's a challenging one where you go and learn a lot of everything that you do to fix animals, but then you're so limited by what the owner is willing to pay, which isn't a negative thing. It's just, that's the reality of the job. If the person can't afford it, you have to put the animal down, and it's just not, like, I would just end up the poorest vet person ever, because I would be doing charity cases 24/7. So decided not to do that. And after that, it was so lucky because I could have gone and studied for 5 years and then come out and had the same realization. So that's why I'm a big advocate for go and get into an experiment with as many careers as you think you might be interested in, because it's a lot easier to figure out what you don't want to do, rather than among the billion different careers that there could be, what you do want to do. And then after that, I still wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. So my physio at the time, because he had been my physio for such a long time during my competition career, he recommended that I go and study physio. And he would have loved me to be part of his team. So I went and started studying physio. And I just remember being in the classroom and looking around everyone in there, and everyone was just so passionate about it. And I just didn't feel the same way. Not that I didn't like what I was learning. I love learning anatomy. I love learning physiology. But I realized that my passion doesn't lie with helping injured people rehabilitate. It comes from helping people who are well enough to figure it out to reach their full potential. And so I thought, okay, well, what can you do that in? However, I'm missing a part. That was when I met my now husband, William. And when I met him, he said, obviously typical questions, what do you do and what's your plan? And I just said, I'm currently studying physio, but I'm not super passionate about it. And he just said, well, why are you doing it? There's so many other options that you can. And it was funny. Before I met him, I said to him, before I met him, I used to say to my mum all the time, I don't feel like I'm meant to be doing physio. I feel like I'm going to meet someone. I didn't think in a romantic way, but I just said, I feel like I'm going to meet someone that's going to teach me about business and what direction I'm supposed to go in. And I said it all the time. It's so strange. So maybe there is a lot in manifesting, and I was doing it without even realizing it. But anyways, met William, and our first ever date was a run, which was hilarious. And I had started that year. It was the start of last year. I had started running every Sunday by myself anyway, because when I first moved, because I had to move to the Gold Coast to study physio. And when I moved there, I found it very hard to find my people, because you would know on the Gold Coast there's a fairly heavy party culture, particularly before COVID. There was just a big party culture. So I found it hard to make friends that didn't just want to go out and get smashed every Saturday, because not that there's anything wrong with having a drink every now and then. I don't really drink alcohol, or very, very rarely drink. It's just not my thing. So then, but I wanted to make friends, so I would go out and try and meet people, but then I found the conversations we would have are very surface level, and
Ooh.
it just wasn't my vibe. So then, rather than, I found that on Saturday nights everyone pesters you to come out, which is very nice of them to include you, but I didn't want to go out anymore, and I didn't have a good enough reason. They would just be very persistent. But I found when you say to them, oh, I can't come out because I'm running 10Ks tomorrow morning, they just leave you alone. They go, oh yeah, no worries, have fun with that.
Cool.
And so it actually turned out to be a really good excuse. But there was another reason also as to why I was doing the 10Ks every Sunday as well. Jumping back to 2019, which is, for those of you who don't know me, and not many people would know this anyway, I used to be quite negative and quite fearful, which is very weird for people to hear. But it was about 2019. It was losing, I'd say, I don't want to say losing, coming second at Worlds, and then finding out more about myself and embracing what I knew was my strengths, which one of them is I know I can work hard. I've always got that. I love hard work pretty much. So in 2019, my dad had decided he wanted to run a full marathon because he'd always run half marathons. And I really wanted to do it with him, but I was injured at the time. So I had 3 months off training just to see if rest would fix it, which it didn't. But I got to the 3 months off, and the Gold Coast Marathon was at the end of that. And I just thought the rest didn't do anything. It's still sore, and my dad may never run another marathon. So I just decided to register the day before the Gold Coast Marathon and run it. And bearing in mind, this is before any running time for me. I was not a runner. I was fit, but I hadn't trained in 3 months. I hadn't done anything in 3 months. And so I just registered and did it. And I remember being at 27 Ks, thinking I had 15 Ks to go, and just going, crap, this is going to be so bad. We got through it. Run, walk or crawl. I definitely didn't run the whole way, but I met this incredible couple who her husband was running with her to do her first ever marathon because he did them very competitively. And yeah, so I stuck with them, and we chatted along the way of the end of the run. And that was when I first started understanding the concept of being able to build your own mental discipline. And yeah, so then after that, I realized that there's 2 levels to that as well. There is the once off mental discipline that it takes to go and run a marathon in a day. But after the marathon, you've done 5 hours of pain or whatever it is. But after it, you just finished. That's it. That's all it requires. So it requires 5 hours of discipline. Whereas there's that long-term discipline, which particularly in today's world where everything is so instant, you can go look on your phone, get instant gratification. You can, everything is at click of your hands. Uber Eats, Uber, like no one has to wait for anything. And so I think we have been conditioned, the general person has been conditioned to not understand that hard work is necessary for bigger goals. I was lucky that I had the background of hard work, so I did know that, but I just could establish that there was that once-off hardcore bout of discipline doing a marathon. But then what if you are consistently showing discipline on all the things during the week? And that's why I did the every Sunday run 10Ks, regardless of how you feel, regardless if it's raining, whatever it is. I just decided I wanted to make sure that I was holding myself accountable to building that discipline inside myself. And so I started doing that the start of last year, doing 10Ks every single Sunday. And so when I met Will and he came and joined me for one of them, because it was just me at the start, and I've had a few other friends join me in the early stages. When Will came, I told him why I was doing it, and he just said, this is so amazing. And at the time he was reading Find Your Why, that book. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Simon Sinek, or is it a different one?
I think it's Simon Sinek, yeah. Yeah, it is Simon Sinek. And he was reading at the moment, he just said, your why is so strong. Other people in the Gold Coast would for sure appreciate it. It's what the Gold Coast needs. And especially, I think we were in the early stages of COVID maybe. So no one was having that, everyone was going through a pretty challenging time. And so anyways, he encouraged me. He really backed me. He's always been that person in my corner, just going, go, Meg, you got it. You know, not necessarily telling me what to do, but just encouraging me and believing in me for the things that I did want to do.
Yeah.
And he also encouraged me to at least defer my physio degree. So I did, which was for me a big risk, I guess. I felt like I had always wanted to choose the safe option. Whereas I just realized he changed my mindset on the fact that the safe option is, whilst it seems like going and getting a stable career in physio is a safe option, it's not a safe option, because imagine if I hated being a physio and then I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. The thought of that was way more scary than taking a risk while I'm young and being able to fail while I've still got my parents to fall back on if I had to, and I don't have children, I don't have heaps of bills. So deferred physio, started to invite people to Megarun, went on my socials and encouraged people. And the first ever Megarun, it poured rain, so no one showed up, and it was just Will and I. And I looked at Will and I just thought, this is such a bad idea. No one is going to come. We're crazy. No one's like us. And then that was so silly, because the following week, it was a beautiful morning and there was about 16 people there. Some of the people were our friends, but some of the people were not our friends. And then as soon as we realized randoms had just come, it just was so exciting. So then we all ran together. I believe two of the girls, Charlie and Loz, Lauren still comes to this day. She is the OG. They ran their first ever 10K. And then it was just amazing to feel that you could help someone, because we would talk to them while we were running and explain what helped us push through runs. And from there, I just kept going with it and inviting more and more people, and just naturally it grew. I think when I moved to the coast, it was hard to find the friends because there's no platform to meet people on. Like, the people that want to go out and venture on the weekend are normally not out on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Normally, it's nothing wrong with it, but they're normally getting some sleep so that they can wake up really early to go on a hike the next day or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whereas because Megarun is early in the morning, it only attracts a certain kind of human, or a person who is at a certain stage in their life, is what I would say, because I believe everyone has the ability to be that style of person. It's just where you're at in your life. And then, so I realized the people that were coming were just so nice. Everyone was so encouraging. There was no negativity. The conversations were deeper. They weren't talking about other people. They were talking about themselves and how they could get to their goals and how they could improve themselves. And then, we were just blown away. It was so amazing. And then more people wanted to do a similar concept in other locations. And that's when we started to say, okay, well, we did Brisbane first, which is why it's the only one on a Saturday, because I couldn't be in two places at once. So then started on the Saturday. And then I realized, okay, well, I can't be in every different location every weekend. So we just decided to get some really cool people to start locations elsewhere. And it just grew from there. So that was a lot of word vomit for you there, but that's how Megarun came to fruition.
What a story. I've got like a page of notes just from that. That's awesome. There's so many things I'd love to, I guess, chat to you about. I guess I do definitely want to chat about the coming back and then coming second. I'd love to know, even before that though, it seems like you've got that natural competitiveness about you that second is the first person to lose. I love that. But I've written down the word hunger. Like, you've just got a hunger to grow, to perform, to achieve, to compete. Where does that come from? You mentioned you've got a beautiful family upbringing. I'm assuming it would tie into something in there, but but then I'd also like to probably change at some point. And you said at 2019, you're quite fearful as well. So I'm just curious where the hunger has probably come from for you to, like, you're a world champion at the age of, how old were you when you had the world championship? 16, did you say? So 16 years old, world champion. And you said you came from like the C grade. So you weren't good at it. You were actually quite shit at it. And you grinded your way to literally be the best in the world. So it's like that hunger for someone at 16 is quite incredible. So I'm just curious for you, where do you think that's come from?
I think a couple of different areas. Definitely my family, and not just my direct parents, but my grandparents. We've always all we know is hard work. So they've always drilled into me: if you want something bad enough, you can get it done. If whatever you put your mind to, you'll get it done. And I think reinforcing that with being in gymnastics from a very young age, the coaches just show you that if you put in the work, you get the results. It's yeah, it just has always been how I've thought about things. And because I've always been smart and strong and those things, but I wouldn't say I'm exceptionally smart and exceptionally strong. But I realized that if you're not those things, you can work to become them. And some people have these incredible talents where they have photographic memories. Or my older sister is incredibly smart, but also works so hard. So that combination just makes her, she's a doctor, so it makes her this like incredible doctor. But yeah, I think realizing that even if you don't have the exceptional level of smartness, you can still work really hard and as a result do really well. And I think if you get a little taste of the results, then you build your confidence off that. And that's what I did.
Right. I guess what if you could take me back to, I guess, at 16 winning the world championship, and then I guess the correlation and the just the contrast, because like something that I'm a big teacher of is that your a belief is a story you've told yourself grounded in a lived experience. So say someone told you you're not good enough, and then someone dumps you, and that reaffirms that you're not good enough. So it's like I can see like someone could go through what you went through and be like, I lost, I'm not good enough. And that could become the domino to go down a negative spiral, or it could go a different way. So I'm curious, I guess, your experience going from winning to then coming second. How was that experience for you?
Well, it was really challenging, and obviously I was very upset because normally I'm pretty good under pressure. But I think one of the best ways to handle, I wouldn't call it a failure, but it's a lesson, is to try to take your emotions out of it a little bit and look at the logic behind it. And it was my fault that I came second, because when I won worlds, this is a big part of, actually this is probably the what's the word when you have a something moment that,
Tiffany?
yeah, well, it's just like the pivotal moment is what I was looking for. So it's your pivotal moment in your life. So when I did aerobics and I won the year that I won, because I wasn't the top age in the age group, I just kept, I didn't expect to win. I was just doing it because I loved aerobics and I loved performing. I loved how hard it was, because I don't know if you've seen it, but I think it is the hardest sport you can do. It's so gnarly. So I was just doing it because I loved every moment of it. And so when I got up on stage, I just oozed this love and energy, and it was just the most amazing experience. And I was surprised when I won, because normally that doesn't happen in aerobics. Normally you would win when you're at the top age. However, there's obviously exceptions. And then so when I went back the following year, the whole year, whilst I still enjoyed it, my main focus was win.
Yeah.
So instead of going, do it because you love it, it was very outcome focused. And I can only say this now looking back on it, but I was very focused on creating the hardest routine so I could win, doing the hardest skills so I can win, all those things so I could win. And then it puts a lot of pressure on you. And all of a sudden, if you don't get the outcome, you feel like you've wasted the whole year. Whereas if you are doing it because you love it, and you don't get the outcome that you want, you're still going to look back and go, wow, I loved that year. It was so incredible. And I loved every moment of the training, of the performance, and it was all worth it. So yeah, for me, that was when I decided, after I came second, thinking whether I wanted to go back or not. The reason why I didn't go back is because I really assessed my intentions. And the intentions were go back and win, because you can't go out on coming second. I thought, well, that's not why you do it. You go back because you love it. And I do love aerobics. I also had other contributing factors. I was quite injured, and I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do for a career, because unfortunately, whilst Australians are very good at aerobics and we often win the individual competitions, it's not very well supported, or it's not supported at all in Australia. It's bigger in European countries.
Yep.
So that was a big part in it too. But yeah, it was mainly the why are you doing it? And if you're not doing it because you love it, you're doing it because you love winning, then go and win at something else that you do love. I think
Yeah. I've got like a two-part question. I don't really know how to really word it, so I'll just spew it onto you. But I wrote down the exact sentence. You were doing it because you wanted to win versus your intention behind it. And I guess from everything you've said, even from when you were changing from like career to career, I wrote down the word alignment. It felt like you weren't aligned, but you were actually conscious of it. Some people like, I don't want to go be physio for 5 years. Is it really what I want to do? Like when you had your first date with your now husband, you told him like, I'm studying this, but I don't know if I'm passionate about it. That whole time, it seems like you're pretty in tune with your intuition, or at least you're listening to it, and you can actually feel that like, this doesn't really feel right. I guess the two-sided question is, has it always been like that? Have you always been quite an intuitive person, or have you always been conscious of your intuition? Or is it something that you've learned to become more conscious of? Because like I live in a world that it's like the universe will give you lessons. It can either be like a breath of fresh air, it can be getting hit by a rock, or getting hit by a train. So it's like sometimes you have to experience high levels of pain for the lesson to sink in. Or if you're quite in tune with yourself, you can actually pick up those lessons a bit faster than going through the painful experience of it, if that makes sense. So back to the question is, have you always been quite an intuitive person, or is it something that you've learned to listen to and develop a little bit more?
I think I've always been intuitive. I think everyone has this, but my gut, I even if I try to not listen to it, there is that feeling. It's like a burning, and if I'm not doing the right thing, I can tell it just doesn't feel right. However, I think the reason why people don't always feel that or want to listen to it is because sometimes one they might not feel it because everything is so busy now, it's so rushed, and everything's going all the time, and half the time it's just perception that we want to be perceived as busy. But I read a book this year which I think makes sense for what I was feeling and how I've made decisions back then, and it's called Stillness is the Key.
Ooh, I like the name of that.
Incredible book. And I'm not really into all the woo sort of things, but this book just talks about how can you expect to understand yourself if you don't take time by yourself. And that is something that I did do a lot when I was younger, because I was in an individual sport. I was training a lot by myself. My mum was actually my coach for half my career.
Cool.
But I did a lot of work by myself, and I love being by myself. Even now, I love people, but I also am very much like to have my own time. And I think if you don't, how can you know yourself if you're around people all the time? So taking that time to have a think and just not, I never have really liked meditation. I know it works for some people and I want to learn more about it, but even just sitting there and just going, what feels right, and talking through the outcomes in your head. I always weigh up options. So with the physio, I'm thinking, okay, well, here's the two options. Either I go and finish physio for the next 3 years and then I become a physio, I'm in a safe career, or I take a risk now and then I can always go back to physio if it doesn't pay off. I think that as well. But I really do think deep down you always know. It's just there's resistance with people in doing what they know is right because it's hard. It's a harder option, or it's not as safe. Our heads, our brains have, their purpose is to keep us safe, as I'm sure you know. So our brain wants to keep us safe. So it's always going to choose the more comfortable option. But the comfortable is not going to achieve the goals that you have, these incredible dreams that you have, because everyone has them. It's just whether or not they're ready to take the risk to achieve them. But yeah, I use other people's stories as well to inspire me. Like when I did the 2019 marathon off no training, I was listening to David Goggins at the time.
I thought you'd bring him. I thought of his name before we started. I'm like, I wonder if she's going to bring up his name, because obviously I can see a lot of similarities with you and you.
I think I listened to his podcast with Rich Roll and David Goggins. It was one of the very early ones. And I just thought, if this dude is over 100 kilos and did his first race as 100 miles or 100 Ks, whatever it was, I can do a marathon easy. Like that. It's just, it is possible. So, and then you see all these people who have come from absolutely nothing and created lives, or I don't want to just say become a billionaire, because I don't think money is everything, but created mass success for themselves from nothing. I can definitely do it when I come from a great family, a great home, and just learn. Like it's really, now you've got me on a roll, but I just think life, you live your life based on the perspective that you want to live it from. You choose it. It's all how you see it. If you're looking for the bad, you're going to find it. If you're looking for the good, you're going to find it. And experiencing what life is like when you are negative and fearful versus now, I'm just thinking, okay, I've got to change. When I felt like that, I'm like, I've got to change something, because the only person that is missing out in this is me. And that's when I would go, okay, well, obviously the benefit of the risk outweighs what I'm currently living. So
how did you pick up that? Because like, we're not born with like, we're only born with three fears: fear of loud noises, fear of heights, and fear of abandonment, because that leads to death. It's survival. So that belief, beautiful. Like, that was incredible. Where did you pick that up? Or how can someone who's maybe plays the opposite, plays a little bit victim, like, it's their fault, I can't do this, I'm stuck in my ways, I can't do that, I'm not good enough, versus you control your perception, your perspective, and the world, you see the world with the perspective that you've put on it. If life is full of opportunities, then you'll find opportunities. If life is painful, you'll find you'll just find pain. So where did you develop that, the perspective of your perspective? Where did you develop that or learn that?
I would say just getting real with yourself. It's what life do you want to live? I know people say FOMO, or you only live once. You only live once. So what life do you want to live? Because you can spend your whole life blaming other people for the life that you have. But at the end of the day, you're the only one that loses. And so if you take a second and you go, hold on a second, blame gets me nowhere, because I used to blame people a lot as to why I wasn't pursuing what I'm passionate about, or why I wasn't at where I wanted to be. But blame comes from the fact that you're not happy with yourself and where you are. So of course you're going to project that onto someone else, because it makes you feel better in the short term. Yeah. In the long term, again, you lose. You're the only one that loses from all of that. And I just didn't want to lose. I don't want to get to this. Actually, my big driving force is I want to get to the end of my life and have God, or whatever you believe in. I wouldn't say I'm overly religious, but I do believe, I have faith that there is something bigger. And I don't want to get to the end of my life and be shown, okay, this is who you could have been. But because you continuously felt sorry for yourself when you were blessed with a great life, this is who you are. And you missed out on all of these experiences, all this joy, all of this, because of your mindset. And you are the only person to blame. And so when I had that realization, it changed a lot of things for me. And it doesn't just happen straight away, because you've grown these negative thought patterns and these blaming thought patterns in your head yourself. You grew them, which means it actually takes effort to change that. And that's when the running came into it, because I realized a lot of people talk about changing mindset, but there's not a whole lot of practical ways to change it. And I'm very logical. So
now, you speak very well. You've got a good, like, spiritual side to you, which I didn't know until this podcast, which I'm rather enjoying right now. You said, I'll mix the words up, but you just said, when I learned that was a big shift for me. How did you learn that? I'm a practical person as well. Like, was it a book? Was it a conversation? Was it like spending some time by yourself and something just hit you? Like, I can't keep blaming. I am the maker of my life. I am the maker and the creator of it. Was that through a book or a podcast or a conversation? Where did that hit you?
I'm trying to remember, because I remember having a conversation with my mum where she said, Meg, it was like you just woke up one day and you were just a different person. I went from being this negative, blaming, fearful person to just going, alrighty, time to take control. You are living a life that you want to live, you choose to live. And it just changed everything. I don't remember the exact point, but I think I had been spending some time alone and just thinking, well, when I was considering doing aerobics again and that sort of thing, just thinking, well, why do I want to do it? And why did I feel so hurt when I lost Worlds? Because coming second is still a great achievement. Why did it not feel anywhere near as good? And I think it's self-reflection. Plus, I was always training. And I think if you're consistently getting yourself in the hurt locker and you get that head noise, it helps you sort out whatever you've got going on in your head. So
It's true.
At least I've always found that that's the best way for me, not necessarily sitting still and trying to think about it. I think that's really hard. Like I don't sit there and think, okay, what's wrong with my head? Like, I don't think that. I'm doing something and seeing what comes up, see what you're insecure about, because normally your insecurities or your jealousy of someone else is exactly what you need to go towards. So if I said to you, if someone said something negative about me, or if I said something negative about someone, or I thought something negative, I actually look into that a little bit more and I go, okay, why do you feel like that? What are you jealous of? Because if you're jealous of that, Meg, you got to work on that inside yourself. And it's very uncomfortable, but because every part of you wants to go the opposite way and just go, no, but they're just not a nice person and whatever else it is. And sometimes there are people that just are not your kind of people. It doesn't mean you have to be friends with them, but if what they're doing is bothering you, that should be a direct indicator of what you need to work on.
Sounds like a lot of self-reflection. It sounds like, I guess, probably being conscious of your thoughts and challenging your thoughts. Like you're right, like you use the word projection really, really well there. Like it's like whatever you're judging someone for, it's a part of yourself that you see in them that you haven't learned to accept. So being able to, when you've got one finger pointed at them, there's three fingers pointed at you, and being able to say, well, if I'm judging this person for being too confident, it's like, well, where am I lacking confidence? Where is that something I haven't learned to accept about me and embrace about myself? So self-reflection, I think, sounds like a big part of your life, spending time by yourself, whether it's training, whether it's the sport aerobics, obviously physically training, or just whatever, some self-chatter with yourself and weighing up things. Is that quite a big part of your life from what you've said?
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's really important to spend time by yourself. And how do you know where you're at if you don't stop to reevaluate it?
Do you have any, I guess you're so active, so it'd probably be the running and stuff like that. It's probably your ritual of doing that. Or do you have any, I'm just thinking for people that are listening that obviously training is a fantastic option. Do you have any other maybe things that you do to maybe spend some time with yourself and maybe reflect? Do you journal or anything like that?
Well, I never journaled until the start of this year, because that just gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit, because I'm not that there's anything wrong with it. I do it now, but I think I just didn't, I never liked English at school. I was always maths and science nerd. And so I just, the concept of journaling for me was like, oh, don't want to do that. But then when I read Stillness is the Key, and even more so Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty,
right,
he talks a lot about journaling. And it was really interesting. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing it, but Will, my now husband, and I, we both started journaling around the same time, and then we started reading our journals to each other, and I know it is why our relationship is so strong now and so close, because it helps you understand each other's brains so much. And we did not go easy on it. Like, it was the honest, as raw as you could be. And it's why we grew so fast as well, because a lot of people have said, this is a comment was always, you got married very quickly. People thought I was pregnant. I'm not pregnant. But a lot of people ask me that, and I think it's just because we put our relationship in the pressure cooker very quickly. And then we both we know each other inside out. That's someone we want to be with for the rest of our lives. So we also are not people who do things traditionally, I guess. But journaling now, reading, I think learning from other people's experiences makes everything seem so much more attainable. I think it's easy to put people in a box. You could go and say, okay, well, Simon Sinek, I could never be like him, and he's a special human. But if you really wanted to become a master in what he's a master in, you can go and do that. You just have to dedicate the time and effort to actually doing it. And learning from where people have come to where they are now shows, David Goggins is a perfect example. Hard work can get you there. And yeah, there's people who have talent and then also work hard and then they're exceptional, but you can still get yourself there. It's just, taking that limit that you put on yourself away. that's a big thing, is I realized I was putting limits on what is possible, and there just really is not a limit. It's not. And Will was a big person who showed me that there's no limit on what you can do. You just have to believe it's possible.
I'd love to ask maybe one or two questions, and I'd love to dive into relationships. It's been a big theme of my life, and something that I'll bring it up once we get into relationships. I guess two questions is one is what are the mindset lessons or beliefs, maybe your top three that have really shaped or guided you, that say, knock on wood, or maybe in your biography to be left behind, what would be your top three that have really served you well so far?
Mm. I'm not sure if this is exactly going to answer your question, but one of them would be the motto for Megaron is, through discipline, you build the confidence that you're capable of more.
I got it on the wrist right there.
Yeah, we love it. If you're not, I realize that confidence these days is built a lot on how you look or what you have, how you're perceived, rather than how you feel about yourself. And if you're building confidence by buying more clothes, getting better makeup, whatever it is, it's not true confidence. It's just not, because it can be taken away from you so easily. But if you build confidence in yourself based on your character, first of all, and second of all, what you're capable of doing, then you will always have confidence, because even if something fails, you're building that little resume of what you know you can do. So every time you go for a run, this is what we try to say at Mega Run. If you run 1 kilometer for the first time ever and you've never run before, you go, heck yeah, I just did a kilometer. Say the next week you show up and you want to run whatever, it doesn't matter what distance it is. But all we say to people is, when you hit that point in your run and you want to stop, you're getting that head noise that doubts you, because that's what it's doing. When you're running and you get a head noise saying, stop running, you're tired, you've done enough, whatever you hear in your head, it's about learning. That's your brain protecting you, and you don't have to listen. It's only about 40% of what you're capable of. That's what David Goggins always says. But listening to that in my head over and over, I go, now I got more. I can do more. Let's see how far we can push it. That's what I'm telling myself every time I run. And if someone shows up and they want to stop, they get the head noise at 4 kilometers, we're going to try and push them to the 5, because when they get to the end of their run, they're going to sit there and they're going to go, okay, I thought I was going to stop at 4 and I had a whole nother kilometer in what I could do. I did a whole extra kilometer on what my mind told me that I could not do. So then if you practice that in your running, you can translate that to the rest of your life as well. So when you want to change that career field, but your head starts telling you, oh no, because then you have a risk if you won't have enough money, and whatever else the career risk is, you've just built a stable job, you shouldn't leave. And I mean, I'm not saying to everyone needs to leave their jobs, but just knowing that you don't have to listen to the voice of self-doubt, and that it is your mind just trying to protect you, not that it's an actual thing, is very powerful. And that's where your confidence comes from. That's what true confidence, for me, I believe, comes from. So that would be one of them. And then a big one was changing the care that I had around what people thought of me, because I used to care a lot about what people thought. And I think that's a particularly a high school thing. It's harder. It's hard in high school, but when you get a bit older, well, I mean, if you could learn it in high school, it'd be great. But I didn't learn it until a bit later in my life. It doesn't matter what people think about you. It cannot do anything to you unless you let it. So, and also, why does that affect you? Especially if they don't know you. If they know nothing about you, they're just looking at you from social media, or they're just seeing you across the room in the gym, and all of a sudden they assume that you're not a nice person. Who cares? They don't know you. You know you, and the people close to you know you. So of course, if the people that know you really well, your family or your husbands or partners or whatever, if they start to say you've got a serious problem, then yeah, listen to them and take their criticism on. But if random people are saying not very nice things about you, if you care about that, you're going to start ending up how they want you to be rather than what you want to be. And that is where I think a lot of people are sad, because they have this disconnect between who they want to be and what they want to do, and how they want other people to perceive them and tell them that everything that they want to do is good. But yeah, if you take advice from other people who have no idea, who don't know you well, you're going to live a life that they want rather than what you want. And I don't want that life. You're not going to be fulfilled, because no one knows what you have inside your heart, only you. Or the people close to you might have a bit of an insight. But that's probably the second one. And also realizing that we're so concerned about how we're perceived, when often people are so concerned about how they're being perceived, they're not even thinking about us. Like, we're actually selfish in thinking that people are that concerned about what we're doing. It's egotistical. People don't care. They're so concerned about how they're being perceived. So that changed a lot for me. I just stopped trying to please other people, even people close to me. I stopped trying to please them, and I just thought, what do you want to do, Meg? What are you going to be happy with? And that helped me make a lot of my decisions, because I used to go to everyone and say, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And then you have about 5 different opinions and you're like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I did that with my careers and my study. Whereas if you just take a little bit of time and you just go, okay, how would I feel if I had this outcome? How would I feel if I had that outcome? That's what helped me make a lot of my decisions and be happy with my decisions. But it's also brave, because then you are in responsibility. It's your responsibility of your decision, which I think people are afraid of. If you ask someone for an opinion and you do theirs, you can blame them because they told you to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you make the decision, it's on you. So you have to have a little bit of courage with that. And then my third one would be, I don't know, but this has just come to my head. Stop being afraid of failing. It's the best way to learn. Why are we concerned about the actual failure, or are we concerned about being perceived as failing? Because failure is not a bad thing. I guarantee you would know if you think about the times that you have made mistakes or things haven't gone to plan. You've learned so much more than when things have gone right. It's relationships is a perfect example. Here's your segue, Lewis.
Yeah.
But if you have a bad relationship, it teaches you exactly what you don't want. So you're so much more selective.
Mate, your beliefs are fucking awesome. Like I've obviously, I spoke to you, I think, for like 10 minutes when I saw you at the mega run when I came down, but it's so, because obviously I see so much training from you online. It's refreshing and it's inspiring to hear just your perception on things, like what you just said then. Like, a bad relationship doesn't ruin you. It shows you what you don't want and shows you what red flags to look out for the next one, and what boundaries to set for yourself if they overstep them in the current one. So, mate, you're a great speaker. You're a very good speaker.
You know what? I said I'm a terrible speaker. Like, yeah. I used to hate public speaking in school. If I got told I would do a speech, I would cry. I wouldn't want to do it.
I relate to that. I feel to that. I was a biology physics person, and English was like, I've had a lot of reflections in the way you've spoken today. I guess into relationships, I guess it's been a big theme for me lately. Probably in the last 12 months, has been really. I've done I got a lot more, I guess, reflecting on it, a lot more searching into it, a lot more research into it. I'm curious, I guess, what a relationship, how I guess it's impacted you from a mental level, like how it's shaped you and how it's built you, made you stronger, challenged you. Because I live in a world where relationships reveal parts of you that you haven't learnt to grow and accept yet. That's why you get triggered so much in a relationship. So I see it as something that it's going to challenge you. It's I see it's something that's going to help you grow and develop as an individual. So it's like, the more I'm in a relationship, the more I enjoy it, because I see so many benefits to it. So I was curious, I guess, your experience of being in a relationship and how it's helped shape you into who you are.
Okay. So you're meaning romantic relationships, obviously.
Yep. Yeah, like intimate relationship.
I have never, I guess I'm a lover, so I have a tendency to overgive and then forget to remember what I want. That's what I found that I used to do. And initially, like, my first ever boyfriend was my first ever kiss. Like, I didn't even know boys existed. So I was very inexperienced in relationships. So my first 2 boyfriends are both really nice people. But well, I can't really say that because I mean, to be completely transparent, I have been cheated on before. I've experienced all of that. And I only say this so that, you know, you have girls and girls and boys, I shouldn't just say girls. I'm just saying that because I can relate to it. But you have to be so careful not to drag on what has happened in past relationships and continue them on to future relationships. It's not fair to take something that you've experienced before and put it onto someone else. So when people say, oh, I have trust issues from my last relationship, I always think, well, why? That was someone else. So why do you feel the same for this new person? Like, that's something that you need to look inside yourself and figure out. And certainly my first ever boyfriend did cheat on me. And after that, you'd think it's your first one that sets you up to have failure in the rest of your relationships. I just didn't see anyone for 2 years until I met my next partner. And it was because I knew I wasn't ready because I hadn't figured out how to handle that situation and how to trust other people. So I didn't think it was fair of me to put how I was feeling onto somebody else. But in previous to my relationship, my marriage now with William, I did have a pretty challenging relationship where there was a lot of lying and a lot of infidelity. And it's funny because after I came out of that, it took me so long to get out of it. It was one of those ones where you break up and get back together and break up and get back together. And I really lost myself in it. I definitely lost what I stood for. I lost the person that I was. And it was challenging for people close to me to see that happen. I was still going hard at the gym and happy when you saw me and things were good in that relationship. But it was very up and down and up and down and up and down. And so when I finally got out of it, I remember somebody saying to me, because I was talking about how that person had manipulated me and it had really confused my mind. And this other person said to me, oh, well, manipulation is your choice. And it triggered me so hard because I just thought, you don't know what it's like to be manipulated. It's so, everything. And I jumped down his throat straight away. And it wasn't Will, by the way, it was somebody else. And then I just reflected on it and I thought, no, you're so right. Because if I had have just stopped and taken myself out of the situation, then I would have been able to see that I was choosing to stay, as much as it's terrible. And, mine was mild in comparison to what some people experience, but it's still a choice. Like, there's a way out of any situation. And like, without going into too much detail, now reflecting on it, I sat there and I thought, okay, well, these are my non-negotiables, because every relationship has its things that it needs to have put work into it. If you think of it as the same as your mind, your muscles, relationship needs to have work in order to be a healthy relationship. And you need to communicate really well. I think that's the biggest one. Is I wasn't a huge communicator after that relationship. Whilst I definitely trusted Will, I wasn't as good at communicating, but he has been very good at making me talk about everything, even when I don't want to. So it's really good. I think all I would say is that I do think that there is the right person, not necessarily one person, but there is the right person for everyone. And then after you make that choice, it's just your job to consistently work together as a team to achieve the goal, which is to have a healthy relationship together. I just did a bit of a circle, but
that's incredidible. I guess this is such a big can of worms. We might have to do a part 2 or something of a podcast, but you've got a lot of value, Meg. Like like I said, I don't know you extremely well, only through socials, but you've got a lot of depth to you, which is obviously I've seen the fitness and the achievements that you do online, but like you said, social media versus what someone is in person, it's hard to tell, but you've got a lot of depth to you, and it's fucking exciting. I could ask another 30 questions and go for another hour, but I guess what I would like to do, this is a question I've been asking people to throw them off a little bit, but is what we'll finish on this and then we'll get a plug for where we can reach out to you. But what's something that you've been thinking about a lot lately that you haven't spoken to anyone about?
that's hard because Will and I speak about most things. But I think what I would like to leave in this podcast is how important it is to just embrace being your authentic self, authenticity, which is what you're pretty much saying to me I'm doing, which is great. But everyone is so different. Everyone is made up completely differently. And there is nothing wrong with having strengths and weaknesses and whatever it is, you are the perfect composition for you. And so if everyone stopped comparing themselves to each other, it's like having apples and oranges. You're not supposed to compare them. Just some people like oranges, some people like apples, but as long as you like what you are, it doesn't matter. I just think that it's what I'm trying to pursue with Mega Run, and I'm actually, there's something else that I'm working on, but I'm looking at doing a little challenge with some people. I haven't even gone into specifics of it, but just to help them with training, nutrition, and mindset, because I do have a wealth of knowledge and I love talking to people and helping them. I think if we can just get everyone feeling more comfortable being themselves, then everything would just be better. You wouldn't compete against each other, because comparison makes people not very nice to each other. So if everyone stopped comparing and was just happy for the other person, and then they can celebrate each other's successes, I think all the relationships and the way that Instagram is now and other social media platforms, we are wired to compare. So I'd say authenticity, and the way you achieve that is through stillness and spending time by yourself and getting to know who you are, and just accepting that you can't please everyone. You really can't. So don't try, just please yourself, and the right people will support you and stay around. And then that's how you're going to find a life that you love, full of people that love you just the way that you are. That's fulfillment, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but that's what I have.
Beautiful answer. Meg, if anyone wanted to reach out to connect with you, just like what's the best way to reach out, whether it's the Mega Run, whether it's you personally, like you've obviously got so much value to add. So where could someone connect with you?
Well, I respond to everyone's messages on my personal Instagram. So Meg Sutherland is my Instagram. Or in Mega Run, we also respond to everyone's messages. Or you can come to a Mega Run if you're local. Yeah, I'm normally at Brisbane on Saturday, Gold Coast on Sunday. But yeah, that'd be sick. I love meeting new people, especially hearing other people's stories, because I draw motivation and inspiration from other people's stories as well. So, and that's why Mega Run is so much fun, because you go and have breakfast with everyone afterwards, as you know, and we all share stories of how we've built what we have now. I just love it. I love seeing people just be themselves and be stoked about being themselves.
Epic girl. You are an absolute gift. And I look forward to, I guess, watching your journey, being adjacent to it. And yeah, just seeing the people you've already impacted, and it's growing. It's absolutely growing. I'm watching it. I watch it every single day, the stories and the post, and I look forward. I'll be down there this week. And mate, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for your time. For everyone that's watching, go hit Meg up, send her a message. If you got value from this, send this to one person that you think got value from. And Meg, thank you for your time.
Lewis, keep ripping it up, man.